It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the happy entrepreneur, and welcome back to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission really is to inspire, and our mission is to empower. And our mission is to provide you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Paula Harris, who's in the building today to talk about rise from setbacks and obstacles. What's going on, Paula Hollis? How are you?
Hi, I am doing well. I am glad to be here. Good evening to everyone out there.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for being here. We're talking about a subject about rise from setbacks and obstacles. And before we get started, a number of folks might be wanting Shay, before she talks about this, what's one of the obstacles that she had to rise back from? What was one of the setbacks that she had to rise back? So let me turn over to you so you can frame the conversation. Let them know, a little bit about who are you, and then what was one of the biggest setbacks that you had to rise back from?
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity. One of the biggest setbacks that I had to rise and work through was in November of 2021. My sister and my husband of 30 years passed away within 6 days of each other. My husband was 6 weeks away from retiring after 34 years at the U.S. Postal Service. And he suddenly passed away, leaving me as a widow with three sons, a daughter in love, and a grandson, and I had to figure out what I was going to do.
And how did you hear about it? And what were your thoughts and feelings when the news was first shared with you?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story because it was the day before Thanksgiving. And of course, my sister had passed away a few days prior, and I was preparing Thanksgiving dinner, which was going to be much smaller than usual. And it was not going to include a turkey. And so my husband's like, how can we not have a turkey on Thanksgiving? And so he sent me to the market to go and try to find a turkey the day before Thanksgiving. And while I was out of the home, my daughter in love called me and said that he had slumped over and he was unresponsive. So when I got back to my house, there was a flurry of activity with the first responders and the emergency personnel. And unfortunately, as feverishly as they worked and as diligently as they worked, my husband did not survive.
It's almost unfair to ask, but how were you feeling in that moment? And what were some thoughts that were going through your mind? Were you angry? Were you mad? I'm just curious.
Yeah,
You don't
I'm glad
you
you
don't have to
shared
share if
that.
you don't want to, but what were you thinking?
Yeah, I had a lot of thoughts going through my mind. There was some anger, like, oh my gosh, like, is this really happening? There's, of course, some hopefulness because had put out prayer blasts to my different friends. But then there was also some concern because my sister had just passed away 6 days prior. She had been found unresponsive. No one was around her. And we had to sit for 10 days to watch all of her neurological testing to determine even her outcome and status. And so I'm wondering, okay, is my husband going to be in the same situation? Am I about to do that same thing all over again? There were so many things running through my mind, especially since my husband was being resuscitated on the exact same floor where my husband himself, had resuscitated me when I had a seizure and stopped breathing the year before with COVID. So I'm like, okay, he's going to pull through. My mind is thinking he's going to make it because I made it, but that wasn't his outcome.
Yeah. And what was the first thing you had to do at that point? What was one of the decisions you had to make in order for you to take the first step and start getting your life to back up
Yeah.
and running
So
again?
yeah, we left the house and we got to the hospital. And then once they pronounced him, I had a moment with my sons. I'm standing there. The three of them are surrounding me, and I'm looking at my husband. I'm looking at my sons, who are 31, 23, and 17. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never been a widow before. I've never been a single mom. I've never lived as an independent adult. I married my husband straight out of undergrad. So I'm like, I'm doing something that I've never quite done before. And in that moment, I recalled a conversation that my husband had with each of my sons when they were each around age 5 or 6, where he told them, hey, look, I've never been a dad before. You've never been to some before. We're doing some things we've never done. We're going to get some things right, and other things we're just going to mess up. But as long as we work together, as long as we're honest with each other, there's nothing that we can't do. And so my kids and I recalled those conversations. It's amazing because they were run off one time conversations that he had with each child. But in that moment, it rose up in each and every one of us to remember that. And we committed to be open, honest with each other, and to give each other grace and space because we're doing something we've never done before.
And so such then started the process. Now you were already in the field of personal development. Is that correct? Before this took
So
place?
I had been doing some personal development work in general, and I was working through my coaching process. But of course, this definitely shifted everything and truly catapulted me into that line of work. Hmm.
Yeah. And what was one of the reasons you decided to continue to focus on transformational? And that's one of the things we'll be talking about. You got this acronym R.I.S.E. You've
Yes.
been through something that maybe 1% of the folks that are listening have been through. I know I've never been through it, so, but I can hear the story and I can hear where your heart is and I can feel it
Yeah.
coming through these fiber optic lines. You have this concept called RISE, R-I-S-E, RISE,
Yeah.
above setbacks and obstacles. But before we do that, how did you get into the transformational space itself? And then, why did you decide to narrow it down as well as being a grief expert after having leadership training and so many other trainings that you have? And you're also alumni of my school, Johns Hopkins University, by the way, as well.
Oh, I
Uh,
didn't know that.
it's a small world. You was there in undergrad. I was there in grad. I went to Morgan State
Blue
University for
Jays.
undergrad.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So hey, I got a little
Hey.
something in common. But I guess the question really is for those folks that are listening, they might be curious as well. Like, you decided to focus on transformational and specifically grief when you didn't
Yes.
have to do that. Why did you pick that as the niche that you were going to specialize in?
Yeah, I keep asking myself that myself at times because grief, I really think it just found me. I've had numerous grief stories in my whole life. I have four brothers, all of whom have passed away. My one sister has passed away. I have four nephews that have passed away, two of whom were tragically murdered. And then, of course, now my dad, and then my mom on my birthday, and then my husband. And so it's like I have a perspective on grief, having dealt with grief in so many different areas, that I want to share with others because I've watched others, and not from a place of judgment at all, but I've watched others not know how to navigate it and not how to deal with it. And I just believe somehow I have a gift in some sort in being able to reframe it and see it from a different perspective. And I want to share that with others because, in all honesty, death, as crazy as it may sound, is really a gift to us because of the time that we've spent with that person. And when you think of all the billions of people in the world, they were in your life for a reason. And so it's important for us to discover what that reason is and to let that reason live on, even when the person is no longer here.
I love it. Talk about this acronym RISE, above setbacks and obstacles. It's called RISE. Define it
Our
for us. Give us the mission of it, and then break it down so those folks that are listening can take the concept, and whether it's grief or a setback or something that's gone on in their life, they can use it and apply it in their own life.
Absolutely, because with grief, it's not narrow just and limited to the death of a person. We're grieving losses of jobs, losses of income, loss of expectations. There's so many things we grieve. And so, this concept of being able to rise is fundamental and paramount for each of us in that process. So, it is an acronym. First is the R. You have to remember who you are and your why. And so you started out doing something. You started out on a job, or you started out in a relationship, or you started out, trying to lose weight, or whatever that might be. You had a reason why you were doing that. So it is important to remember that why and remember who you are. You're more than a conqueror. Greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. You are brilliant. You are intelligent. You've got to know who and what you are. So the R is the essential step of remembering who you are and your why. Then, after you've done that, the I is taking an inventory of all of your gifts, your talents, and abilities. Because you started out doing something, you applied a talent, you applied a gift, you applied an ability. Take an inventory of what skills you have been using and maybe even what skills were missing and why it wasn't successful or why you had the setback so that you can understand what are the core abilities that I have. And if it's an ability that I don't have, maybe it's something I need to develop. So take that inventory so you understand what is necessary for what it is that you're trying to achieve. Then S, strategize. Look at those gifts, talents, and abilities and strategize how best to use them. Maybe you were using the gift of, writing and that didn't work in some regard. So how can I finesse that? How can I reframe that? How can I change that to make it better? Why didn't it work the last time? Was I not prepared? Was it environmental? Was it something in my control? Something not in my control? What can I do? How can I strategize best to use this skill, either an old skill refined, a new skill received, or even if it's a skill that's outsourced, maybe I need to strategize and get someone to come and partner with me or collaborate with me to help me to get this done. All of that is part of the strategy realm where you need to figure out how best to use the gifts, the talents and abilities that are necessary to bring forth what it was you were started out to achieve. Don't give up the goal. Refine yourself. And then lastly, E, you've got to energetically start again. You've got to bring all the energy, all the effort, and all of the desire that started and motivated you from the beginning. You've got to bring that back because guess what? 9 times out of 10, you're going to have another setback. So this becomes a repeatable process. Remembering who you are, remembering your why, taking an inventory of your gifts, talents, and abilities, strategizing how best to use them, and then getting right back out there again, putting the effort and energy so that ultimately you can achieve your goals.
Well said. And I know that one of the books you've written is Intentional Intimacy.
Yes.
Tell us about the title of that, by the way, and give us one or two. Yeah, what's the backstory behind that?
Yeah.
Behind the
So
book.
intentional intimacy is my first solo book, and it was written as a memoir of my 30-year relationship with my husband. I never
Mhm.
intended to write a book. Never, 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 never. My whole intention was to just do something on my blog every Monday. My husband's name was Martin. So every Monday I would write a segment called Martin Mondays in 2022, just to honor him, to remember him, and to share with others a side of him that they might not have known, and to share some details about our relationship. And so I just started doing that every Monday. And probably after about 3 months or so, I realized that it was going to be a book. And I'm like, okay, how do I take these anecdotal stories and make them a book? But how do I also not be focused just on Martin and Paula? How can I focus on the end readers, using my relationship as a looking glass, but applying it to their own? And so I started the journey to write the book, and I'm like, well, what shall I call it? And so intimacy became a core component because intimacy is into me, see. Relationships cannot work, relationships cannot thrive if we're not going to be vulnerable and allow ourselves to be vulnerable. So intimacy became a key, but with the intimacy, you've got to be intentional about it. I have to make sure that every day and everything I say, everything I do has intentionality to make sure that I'm maintaining this relationship by keeping honest, open, and transparent communication and interaction in everything that we do. So, intentional intimacy became the title: Lessons in Life, Love, and Relationships. So, it's not just limited to married people, parent and child, siblings, employer, employee, and it contains 61 anecdotal stories about my relationship with my husband, but with application for the reader at the end to determine, how does this apply to you?
I love it. We say to the person that's thinking, "Wow, she's been through a lot, and more so than I've experienced myself personally." I would tell you that, or anyone I really know. They might be wondering, how does she get over forgiveness? How does she get over not just being angry. Now, it depends on who you believe in. I happen to be a Christian, but you could be
Yes.
angry at whomever you believe in. How does she get over that anger and just seems like she's kind of released that when things happen? Shay, I'm like mad. I'm like, why
Yeah.
me? Why this? Why? And so,
Mhm.
I guess the question I have for you is when it relates to a setback or a challenge, and whether it happened because of something they caused or it didn't,
Mhm.
anger could be there and resentment could be there. So, what's your thoughts on being able to overcome that? I use the word forgiveness and just forgive myself. And I've had to forgive
Mhm.
myself for just making bad decisions. I said, well, Shay, it was nobody's fault but you. And so you've got to forgive you. So, here's the question as it relates to forgiveness. How are you able to forgive? And so much has happened to you. And
Mhm.
then what do you share with other folks?
Absolutely. And I'm not going to deny that I don't have those periods of anger and have those periods where I'm questioning and all of that. Those are natural responses. And so don't beat yourself up for having what is a natural response. But it is important that we move forward and that we have path forward strategies to make sure that we're not held hostage. When we don't forgive, we're held hostage in that place, in that moment, in that time. Many times, the person who offended you, they've gone on with their life and they're free and they're doing whatever they're doing for their life. And here we are in bondage and not being able to move forward. And so it's important to ask, what would you be doing if you release the forgiveness? How are you holding and limiting yourself because you're not forgiving? What should you be doing that you're not doing because you're holding on to anger or resentment or the past or just forgiveness that you need to let go? The true freedom for yourself is letting go and believing that ultimately people are going to receive what they deserve. I don't have to have vengeance or try to do anything to get back to anyone. Rightfully, what needs to be deserved will ultimately be received.
What do you do for fun these days then? So much going on, so much heaviness going on. They're like, what does this person do for fun when she just wants to relax a little bit these days?
Well, I do have a 5-year-old son, known as my grandson. So he keeps me busy
Son, I
with
like
his,
that.
my son, yes. He keeps me busy with all his activities. So that's fun for me. But I also do like to travel. I love to spend time with my squad and my circle of friends. And I also, my happy place on earth is sitting in the hot tub, in the jacuzzi. So whenever I can incorporate that self and soul care, I am in my most happy place. That's fun
I'm
for me.
guilty. I love the hot tub. I thought I was the only person that did that. I could read a book and be there all day. I say, what are you doing?
Yes,
I'm just relaxing.
exactly. I love it.
Oh, good. It's good that I'm not the only weirdo, not that we're weirdos. I'm not the only person out there to just really, that's a
That's okay.
good
I'll be a weirdo
space.
with you. It's all right.
Yeah. Good. In the weirdo club, as they say, by the way. And so, would
Hopkins, weirdo, John Maxwell. I mean, we're just
now you've also written, there's another book that you recently released, which I really liked because it was about visionary and visions. And,
yes.
and I'm thinking of the name of it right now, but it was about looking into the future. Take a moment, give us the name of the book and
Hmm.
frame why the book was written and who it's for and what the intent is. Because I like it.
Absolutely.
I think it takes you to a whole nother perspective and allows you to forward think versus always having to retro think, if I can say it like that.
Absolutely. So, to be honest, it's one of my favorite books. Like, I've written several books, but it probably is my favorite, I guess, in some sense. So, it's Vision of Transformation, and it's getting to the point. It's your growth, purpose, and success annual journal. And so, the book is written and designed to encapsulate an entire year of your life. And it's all about the process of setting a GPS for your life, growth, purpose, and success. How are you going to do that? Phase one is to set your annual manifesto. And so you're going to set out, what is my intention that I want to do? All of this is rooted and grounded in 5 key pillars. And that's the part that even birthed my first book. I believe in these five key pillars. The first pillar, and I hope my hand can get in the screen here. The first pillar is your thumb. That's your spiritual. That's the foundation of your hand. If your thumb is not operable, then you've lost about 80% of the function in your hand. And so, rooted and grounded, whatever spiritual looks like to you, I'm a Christian, just like Shay is. So, for me, it's foundational of Christian principles. But whatever that is, make sure you're rooted and grounded spiritually. That's your first pillar. Your second pillar is health and wellness. Because if you don't have a healthy body or a healthy mind, your spiritual goals are going to be challenged. So you need to have a healthy spirit, a healthy body, and a mind to support your spiritual goals. The third one is the middle finger. We're going to reframe the middle finger. That's the goal here. We want to reframe the use of the middle finger. This is the longest finger on your hand. And so this represents outreach and community. None of us live in an island, and everything you do, whether you believe it or not, it impacts others. And we have to make sure with intentional intimacy that we are being intentional about how we impact the community and those in our sphere of influence. And so the third pillar is community. The fourth one, this is your ring finger. Often people wear rings for marriage on this finger because this represents long term commitment. And therefore, that is education because you must be committed to being a life learner. I do not close my eyes at night without making sure I have not learned something for that day. It doesn't have to be something super big, but it has to be something. I cannot close my eyes without making sure that I've learned something. And then lastly is your pinky. It's the smallest finger on your hand. Even though it's small, it still has some significance, but it's not supposed to be the most central focus. And that is fun. Make sure that you have fun. And so the Vision of Transformation book looks at these five pillar goals. It looks at them to set your course annually. What am I going to look like spiritually, health and wellness, community wise, educationally, and fun? What is that going to look like in 2024 for me? I set my goal intentionally at an annual level. Then I make monthly goals. I know my vision. I see it. I've written it. It's before me. But how am I going to get there? Let me create monthly bite sized goals because consistency compounds. When we do something consistently, small iterative changes, it compounds ultimately to get us there. And then lastly is the daily component. What am I doing on a daily basis? And what do I want to capture and remember? Because at the end of the day, the attainment of the goal, it's fleeting. A wedding, a graduation, all of that. It's wonderful, it's celebratory, but the real victory is in the journey to get there. So we trace that, your daily activities, to make sure that your GPS is solid and that you're getting ultimately where you want to be. So it's the vision of transformation.
Well said. Thanks for sharing. What's one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever been given? I like to frame the conversation around the idea that you've had a lot of mentors along this journey. You said before, and I believe that success is a team sport. You can only get so far by yourself. So, of all the mentors you've had, of all the interactions, of all the conversations, I know it's kind of hard, but if you had to reach out and grab one and say, Shay, here's one piece of advice that's been given to me that I want to pay it forward to the audience. And then you, the audience, this is when you get a chance to lean all the way in because you get to walk away with something, an idea that she holds near and dear to her heart that she's now passing to you that could benefit you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's a tough choice, but I have to give the credit to my mom. When my mom was on hospice that week leading up to my birthday, for her to watch her intentionally survive, to be able to wish me a happy birthday, and she passed away on my birthday. One of the last things that she said to me is, Paula, live life. Live life to the fullest with no regrets and do what you were called to do here in this earth. And so that was some of the greatest advice that she gave me. You know, life is
Wow.
a gift. And as a Christian, like I said, God has come to give us abundant life, life more abundantly. And so I need to find out what is that abundant life. I need to find out what is my purpose. My requirement is to live the life abundantly that Christ died for on my behalf. And so I've got to find what my purpose is, and I've got to live that life with intentionality every day of my life.
I'll tell you what, I've certainly enjoyed this conversation. Rise above setback and obstacles. Truly amazing. You're a woman that certainly has inspired me. You're an encourager. You're a transformer. You're someone that's making a difference in the world of a real world with real folks, with real things that really exist. And you've been through something that I don't know of anyone else in my life that's been through what you've been through. So thank you for being here on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. As we come down the home stretch, there's two questions I have. Number one, how can folks best connect with you? And obviously, more importantly, what type of clients are you working with? I guess that'd be number one. What type of clients are you working with? And then number two, how can folks connect with you over and beyond this conversation that you and I are having right now?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I'm just so glad to have been here and to have this space. But yes, I am looking for the client who, you know, grief, relationship, and personal development are my niches. But I'm looking for that person who is looking for self leadership. You're ready to lead yourself into the rest of your life. There's some things you've had, some obstacles that you have to rise through or that you have risen through. And you're ready now to lead yourself to do that life and live that life most abundantly. I'm here to help you do that, to help you to navigate the grief and the loss and the disappointments in your life, to help you to build healthy relationships, first with yourself and then with others, right? And then lastly, have a vision of transformation. I'm here to work with you, to partner with you, to bring all that effort, all that energy together so that you can be who you are designed to be. Because guess what? You are a solution to a problem in the earth. And as long as you're not fulfilling your purpose, someone else is not fulfilling theirs. And so that's the client I'm looking for, someone who's ready to fulfill their purpose and is ready to apply themselves to the process. So you can connect with me on my social media, Facebook or Instagram at I am Paula Hollis. I invite you to sign up for my VIP Inner Circle and we connect. I send out my newsletter and you'll have an opportunity to see what types of things I'm doing. You can connect with me using the website of bit.ly, bit.ly/Coach Paula Connects. CONNECTS. And that's all capitals. bit.ly/Coach Paula Connects. And I would love to talk to you. You can book a free breakthrough discovery call. We can talk about the various coaching programs and services that I provide. And even if it's just a matter of me giving you some initial instruction, I am here for you. I want to shift your energy and awaken your potential.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Have a great night.
You too. And thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the family. Even if you're joining for the very first time, we want to welcome you. Hit the share button, pay it forward. Without you tuning in, without you watching, there is no show. And I love to share every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love to remind myself and remind you that you, as you're watching right now, you're very, very special. You're different. You're fabulous. You're unique. You are just a bad mamma jamma. And I believe as you're watching, as you're listening, no matter where you are right now, I believe that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason, your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is still yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And I promise you from the bottom of my heart, we'll make some good things happen. We connect again next time. God bless. Wish you success. We out. Bye-bye, Paula.
Good night.
Peace, everybody.
Thank
we
you.
out. Bye-bye.